an evangelism conference for New Zealand. Get inspired, be equipped. Engaged Conference, reaching your world one conversation at a time.
But I want to begin with what for me, you heard me yesterday describe at the start of my talk about this sort of moment. Well, it was obviously more than just a moment, it was over a period of time when I really began to see in my mind's eye a vision that a local church could be a strong evangelistic ministry base, an agency for the gospel, and that this was actually a possibility, and that this was the will of God, and my task was not just to be a pastor, a teacher, but also to help the congregation to become a witnessing congregation, to become evangelistic, and its very DNA. And the thing that immediately, oh look, we've got the heavyweight coming in here, look at him, he's still got his Auckland sunglasses, take them off, welcome Don. The thing that immediately confronted me was, because now keep in mind, I'm a pastor, I'm in the work full time, and though I have had, again some of you would have heard me share this yesterday, had some experience as a Christian in a very secular environment, namely a high school as a teacher, where I sought to be a faithful and effective witness. I was now in a church environment where actually when I looked at it, I didn't really know too many non-Christians. I was not, in my phraseology of yesterday, up close and personal with actually any. So now this became a very compelling issue for me, because here is one of the things that concerns me, brothers and sisters. As I've visited so many churches over the years, and particularly over the last 5 or 6 years, and as I talk a lot, now I'm not in churches a lot on Sundays, but I talk a lot with pastors over coffees and things like that. Here is one of my big concerns. The pastor stands up and he is encouraging and teaching and urging his or her people to become effective witnesses, to become passionate evangelizers. And then I ask the pastor in a very non-confrontational way, where are your non-Christian friends? And it's an embarrassing silence. Over and over again. Now, pastors, there's people pick this up. People are smart. And look, I'm going to be a little, perhaps at times a little blunt here, and you can push back because this is a conversation. But don't give me the wow. Well, my role is to equip the saints. I'm the shepherd, they're the sheep multiply, the shepherd, that wow. That doesn't cut it. So I faced this challenge myself now, and my wife, to immerse ourselves so that I could get up, that I as the primary leader of my congregation could get up and tell some authentic stories that were not made up, not exaggerated, evangelistic stories, that were dinkum stories, that actually people say, oh, he's doing it. And now if it's good enough for him, and she's doing it, it's a lot easier actually for my wife, because when this all was taking place in our lives, we were in the young family stage, and so Jeanette was deeply immersed in non-Christian stuff. So it was actually a lot easier for her, but for me it was very, very challenging. So I did something that I'm not saying you have to do, but I just do want to tell my story to kick this off. I thought, my whole life now orientates around Christians, and I'm not going to be able to change that in any hurry. So if I don't do something intentional, then that isn't going to require me to, expend a whole lot of resource and energy. I've got to find something that's going to work for me. So because of my teaching background, and because I was still really keen to be in a secular environment. Guess what I went and did? Exactly, I went and taught a part-time class at a tertiary institution at Wellington Polytechnic. Now you've got to understand this. You get this. You show up to the first class and it's an accounting class. Right? And you introduce yourself, and you obviously have to get a little bit of your academic background, but then you say, vocationally, I'm a pastor. And it's fascinating what then starts to trend. Now, I found that incredibly difficult. I thought, they must think I'm some kind of jerk. What has happened just here? He may have got a bit of this and that in his background, but he's a pastor? Where's the boss? You know, I mean, you can imagine. I mean, I reckon I could read some. What's this about? So I then got to it, because I had it all worked out. My first lesson, I had it all worked out. I was making sure that I could stun them with my brilliance, and that they were going to really like me by the time the first lesson was over, so that we were going to have a good relationship after that. And I just want to share, the fact of the matter is that we had a very good relationship after that. And I cannot believe to this day how very quickly, after class, during the week, different ones would ring me and talk to me. And it wasn't long before I remember dealing with a woman whose marriage was unraveling. I remember talking about a guy who was completely stuck financially. I mean, there was just a whole range of things, and my testimony was constantly being intertwined. And in that time, none of them came to my church, but I did it again in Hamilton when I took on a night class, and 2 of them came to my church, and they were unchurched. So, all to say, Pastor, and remember what I said yesterday? I'm not a gifted evangelist. I mean, I can't believe how many words that man can say in an hour. I mean, and Alan, I mean, all that stuff this morning, I'm like, oh, you know, how does it, but all of us have got something in us. We bring something to the table, and we can leverage that which we bring to the table to actually connect with unchurched people. And it truly is a most delightful thing. I'm just working on some material at the moment because one of the things that we desperately need in New Zealand is we need a whole lot of churches to be renewed. So, you know, what mostly happens in New Zealand when churches have sort of plateaued or they've got stuck is that they kind of do things like build a new atrium, have better music, have louder music, have smoke machines, have stuff that actually does nothing to renew a church. What renews a church, one of the things that renews a church, is when the baptismal waters move. That's what renews a church. Because when the baptismal waters move, every believer, and I'm assuming here in an evangelical church, in other words, you believe the evangelical position, that the gospel is powerful unto salvation, that the gospel changes lives. Everyone in that environment rejoices. They say, I want to be part of that action. Especially if the baptismal service is an event, not just another routine thing, but it's actually an event. That's one of the things I wanted to say in terms of special events for visitor flow. Make your baptismal service an event. Pitch it at a time and do some stuff around it that make it an event so that as many non-Christian friends of those who are being baptised show up. Family and friends show up. Think carefully about the words you're going to speak. Set the baptismal candidates up with a written testimony if they're not used to sharing their testimony. That they do not say a word until you have ticked it off. Because you've got other people that are all observing this and you want this to be, the service itself to be highly impacting. And no better than the people who are being baptised to share something that is well thought through and well written and well said. Brief and powerful. So that's my first point. Pastor, how up close and personal are you? So that you are starting to experience what you're asking your people to experience. As you hang in with a relationship or two or three that leads to a spiritual conversation, that leads to a greater openness to the love of God, which ultimately leads, hopefully, to a conversion experience, that you yourself have a hands-on involvement. This is anecdotal. My sense is that 80% of pastors in evangelical churches in New Zealand, about 2,000 of them, have not led anyone to Christ in 10, 20, or in the entire pastoral vocational life. Not led anybody to Christ. Now, and I exclude from that an altar call on Sunday morning. I exclude from that a funeral service or a wedding service. So excluding those, but that they have, someone has come, because I had lots of those. But that was just because they were in the crowd. And I preached the gospel. And if I didn't preach the gospel then, or in some way present the gospel, but they weren't my friends, they were someone else's friends. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? And praise the Lord for them. And I've been responsible for many of those sorts of conversions that have led to baptism and then church membership. Yeah, absolutely. And again, Pastor, if you're not seeing people as a result of those kinds of events, and weddings are weddings, funerals are funerals, they're not gospel meetings, I understand that, but there is a way. There is a way. I've got quite a few stories like that, but they weren't my friends. So talk to me. What do you think?
I had an incident where I was at a funeral. I led my mother to the Lord, and then she died. And then I got up to her and my family members and I said, I know where I'm sad in my heart, but I know where my mother is, because I led her to the Lord. And then I gave her a scripture where death has not lost its sting. And from talking like that, the next day my sister came up to me. She said, I want to know that Jesus as well. So that
Look, yeah. So again, fantastic illustration. And if we aren't doing that as pastors, then you have to ask why. What are we doing? Actually, that's for me. If pastors aren't, okay, this is going to sound harsh. I don't mean it to be harsh, but if a pastor isn't, based on Paul's instruction to Timothy, it says, preach the word in season and out of season. That every pastor says yes to that when they agree to become a pastor. It's part of the induction thing, right? Every pastor does it. Well, I think they do. It doesn't matter what denomination you're in. Paul says to Timothy, preach the gospel. We're not sure whether Timothy was that good an evangelist, but he was to do that, So every opportunity to be able to preach the gospel. So what you've just said is what I just said, is that, people were impacted by funeral services that I conducted without making an altar call. People were impacted by wedding services that I conducted that weren't evangelistic in any way, but they were impacted and they came back the following Sunday or a few Sundays later with somebody else that had been there, right? That's great. And if you're not doing that, Pastor, if I was on your appraisal panel, you might be on a warning. You're being paid $60,000 and you're not doing that?
Oh, can I join the church?
Seriously? I mean, you'd say, this is not good. Look, because that's 101. Was that too tough?
I think because we equate spirituality, leadership with frenetic activity, in our European mindset, we simply don't allow ourselves the time to build a quality relationship with somebody who's not connected with the church. It's kind of like, why are we wasting time like that when there's so many needs in the church? It's an imbalance that I have, that I think probably most church leaders have. You're going to have evangelists have it. I mean, building quality relationships is not part of what we do, not with non-believers. Go out and talk to non-believers. We don't have the time to build quality relationships with them.
It's like I just agree, like you said, it's been really intentional. Like I faced that journey of starting out as a pastor, just passionate about seeing people saved and our church was quite previously, but it was going to be a soul winning church, and then just kind of overwhelmed by the stuff that had to get done, and then finding myself, just like you said, just entertaining Christians. For goodness sake, I didn't sign up for this.
And neither did you sign for all the admin that you did.
Exactly. It had to be really intentional, and now I'm having to try and rework it as well about connecting with non-Christians, so that it's a big deal, I think, for a lot of us.
So folks, here's my thing on this, and it's and you know this, so I'm almost going to be making, frankly, a redundant comment. But the things that really matter, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And this is what I've discovered. Let me illustrate this way. When I had 4 boys, and they were 4.5 years between them, no twins, so it was a challenging family environment for the teen years. And then for my sins, we took on another friend's teenager, so that was 5. Insanity, really. But anyway, we water skied as a family. And I love water skiing myself. I love the boat, love water skiing. That was important. I cut loose the minute school finished on Friday afternoons and went boating in the summer, because it was really important. So I don't understand when something that I'm working with the assumption that we all agree that good gospel presentations, getting up close and personal with unchurched people is really important. That we don't have that same tenacity to carve out some time to just do it. I didn't care what was on my desk. I don't care who was on my phone. I'm out of here. I'm gone.
Hallelujah.
Because I've got 5 kids waiting.
Yeah.
It's just hyped up to get down to the water.
I think sometimes, just when you talked about being on the board and putting the pastor on the warning, so...
No, look, I'm trying to...
I've been thinking for the last probably 6 years since I've been in Karikari about joining the local folk club, because I'm a singer and a guitarist. And because I love doing that, B, because mostly they're non-Christians, there's a couple of Christians in there. But in the back of my mind, and maybe it's just my makeup, but it's like if I do that and don't see results, then I've got a deacon's board that are going, well, why are you wasting your time doing that when you could be being proactive and say, well, Rob,
You are allowed spare time, though. It doesn't have to be.
I know, but you know what I mean? You get this thing, I'm doing this because I want to be friends with non-Christians. Actually, do I want to be good friends with a non-Christian? I don't know. But I want to be somewhere with non-Christians and do that. But in the back of the mind is this thing like will I come on too strong? Will I come on not strong enough? Will people look at me and go, what are you doing there? As your pastor, you're supposed to be doing something. Yeah, so there's that, and again, that could be just me, but there's that fear that sort of stops you there.
Thanks. That's an honest response, and it's a good response.
Can I just throw in the thought it gets challenging too, because for me it was like hooking up with some guys that did mountain bike. And so first meeting, mountain bike club, how you going, what do you do? I'm a pastor. Okay. So then you got that whole thing of, so the pastor's come riding with us. So how many people go to it's just different to when I wasn't a pastor. It was easy when I wasn't a pastor.
Caddy, everyone knows I'm a pastor.
It's just interesting.
So yeah. So yeah, so exactly. I just say, just do it. When I got involved in part-time, taking a class at either a polytech or a night class, or a night, school, I prayed a lot. And actually, to be truthful, I prayed a lot, and I did go with intentionality. Lord, I do want to have at least a couple of people who show signs of being receptive as opposed to resistant, because always work at the receptive end. It just makes sense, and that I can then spend some more time with. Right? So God gives us that ability to discern that. That's not hard to discern in my view. And some people just sort of, they start to hang around you a bit. There are all sorts of signs. They want some, you know what I mean? They want to hear the holy man actually, because they have got some. It's a bit like Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus knew he was burdened with sin, but he would never be able to articulate it that way. That's why he was so keen to be with Jesus. That he did this ridiculous thing as a senior, he's like a senior manager in the equivalent of IRD. He's making an idiot of himself. You've got to understand this. He's making an absolute git of himself getting up a tree. But he knew, without articulating the words, that I need what he's got. And Jesus comes under the tree and he knows intuitively this man needs what I can give him. Come on down, Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus thought all of us, I don't know what the man would have been thinking, but I was like, whoa, didn't anticipate that. But there was something going on. And that's no different to today. There are some people who just need the holy man to say something to them.
I agree. I think, just going back to your comment about it being harder being a pastor, I actually think it's only harder initially. That initial response from people, oh, okay, and a little bit, but long term, it's a lot easier for you. As a Christian who's not a pastor or not in full-time ministry, and someone says, what do you do? I'm an engineer or I'm a bus driver or whatever, then you've got to somehow work into that conversation to get on to Christian things. Whereas in you, straight up front, everyone knows. And if they want to come and chat to you, and naturally people will just start talking to you about things, and you've got opportunities that you wouldn't have.
And here's the other thing. And what I've done occasionally, Jeff, on this, I have said that, I'm a pastor, but folks, don't be worried. I'm not a Bible basher. Boom.
Alan, I think there are two things that any pastor could do in New Zealand that will be a winner. One is have hospitality around food, but not lousy food, quality food. And number two is to have a 10-minute message with a 20-minute drama and get the people in the church dramatizing the message. It's the most effective way of discipling people. But the thing is that the fringe people in the church will always come to see their child involved in a drama.
They will. But I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to this.
So those two are absolutely, if you have a zero inflow to your church, those two.
Yep.
At our pastors' meeting this week in our church, we were discussing why in the last 16 years we've had 10,000 people visit the church and we've only managed to retain, about 1,000 of those 10,000.
Yeah, that's a huge subject right there.
And that's because drama and hospitality, so we get so many people coming because they know there's a lunch, there's a meal.
Good, that's good, Brian. Yeah, very good.
Couple of things that I picked up. As a pastor, I think we need to train our board to realise that it is tough for us as pastors to be connecting with non-Christians.
Good point.
And there's this attitude that we need to be working a full week plus some to allow for the plus some that our members are working for the church. However, I would like to argue that the plus some should be out in the community. And that needs, so the pastor works their standard hours.
What they're paid for.
What they're paid for, and their plus sum isn't for the church.
Yep.
It's actually community.
Yep.
And a couple of things.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way of putting it.
You educate your board
Yep.
that the plus sum is actually there for work.
Because pastors do plus sum,
Yeah.
and generally it's just like They say, oh, the volunteers do plus some, so I've got to do some, so another 4 hours goes into just more of the same.
Yeah.
Well, actually, put those 4 hours into something else outside the church. That's very good.
The other thing that was important, Lou talked about the quality relationship, and that's a very different thing than what you talked about as far as lecturing, unless you were a very special lecturer, and what Rob's talking about as far as you start off without quality, and that's a start. And this is this thing where, I beat myself up on a pretty regular basis of how much I lack non-Christian contact. But at this stage, I am beginning by having those, if you like, the superficial stuff of sitting in a class with non-Christians. They're not quality relationships, but at least they're relationships.
They're there. You're starting.
And the folk music thing, it's not going to start off quality, but it's a start. And I think those are the things where we start with the plus sums, and it may build to quality, or we're just going to start somewhere.
You just got to start, and then if it takes a while to get a story or two, it takes a while, but just start. And if you have to invest a bit of your own time beyond, you do your 40 hours for church, you do a little bit extra. Well, then heck, there are actually 112 waking hours a week. May I remind you?
And your skiing was the plus sum.
Well, it was because
they're building relationships.
Well, get this. Yeah. I mean, then there was, the boys would line up. Can I bring so-and-so? Can I bring so-and-so? Exactly. Well, no, they won't fit in our car. Well, guess who's going to bring them down? Mum and Dad. Yeah. So now we're sitting around at the ski club with Mum and Dad, and we're all having a Friday night, picnic, and it's right into 9 o'clock, and we're still just on the water, and I can't tell you the joy that brought to my heart. I was ready for Sunday without any other preparation.
So the plus sum can actually be leisure.
Totally. Of course it can. Absolutely it can be. For me, teaching a class in accounting or something, business, was enjoyable. Because I didn't have to mark in those settings. I didn't have to mark. Marking's horrible. Every teacher hates marking.
Alan, can we do the zero tolerance part?
Yeah, let's do zero tolerance. So zero tolerance. Sorry, thank you. A little bit distracted. So what I mean by zero tolerance is creating an environment. So first of all, let me back up. So first of all, Pastor, I'm talking to pastors, church leaders, elders. You've got to decide one morning. You've got to get up and you've got to say, right, Lord, because I think this happens in, this is what I'm talking about now, so what's going on in your heart and your convictions. Lord, I'm glad for the people you've given me. I can't believe that there are so many people that trust me, that come Sunday after Sunday and listen to me. Now, pastors, hear me. Your people have a lot of options on Sunday morning. I'm talking to all of the other pastors out there, but a lot of the pastors, when they stand up for 30 minutes and preach, it's not flash. We're in New Zealand. It's not flash at all. But the people are there. And Lord, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for all of these people and all of the children that are part of this and the add-ons, the tack-ons. I'm very grateful. But this isn't all that my ministry is about. Lord, I am not going to be satisfied by just seeing the same old, same old. I want to see new faces. And Lord, I want to see them every single Sunday of the year, without fail. I want to see visitors. I don't care how they get there. I just want to see them. Yeah. I want to see faces that I do not know by name, faces that are complete strangers to me and probably to most others. I just want that because what we've got going on here is so good. And I'm not necessarily saying that your own preaching, because you better get someone else to tell you whether it's so good or not. But it's so good because these people love each other. Now here's the thing. You're going to hear me now talk about my good friend and mentor who's now died, Jerry Cook. You have created in your church an environment of love, acceptance and forgiveness. In other words, that it doesn't matter who shows up on Sunday. He might have beaten up his wife the night before, but he's in your church on Sunday. He might be a known drunkard, and he's in your church on Sunday. He might be a womanizer, or she might be a manizer, and he or she is in your church on Sunday, and the church now understands that these people are welcome here. We are so glad you're here, and that you're not hang over with us. Don't hang over with another beer bottle. Hang over with us. We'll look after you. Isn't this what we are about? That there is an intolerance in your own heart that now starts to become contagious to all of your people, especially your elders. You've got to get your elders on board. Look, I am sick of pontificating elders who sit there and stymie the life of the church. Pontificating elders should be sacked immediately. Now, what I mean by pontificating elders is that they, and they do not do the real stuff of ministry themselves. They are disqualified. Yeah. Pontificating elders are stymieing churches up and down the land. Yes. Sorry for getting so head up. Don.
I love what you're saying. Zero tolerance for zero visitors in the church. Can you give us a couple of keys that would make church more relevant to the unchurched?
Yeah. So, how many of you have got car park issues? Okay? No, you don't have enough cars. you don't have the kind of issues I'm thinking about. No, so it starts with allocated parks for visitors. So sticks come out with signs close to the door, visitors only. Your people, if you're short on car parks, your leaders are asked to park as far away as they possibly can and walk.
Yeah.
Including you, Pastor. Lead the way. Yeah, I know you've got I know, Don. You've got a nice flash car park right outside the door. Well, just give it away to visitors.
Really?
Yeah, really. And I had to. And walk to the front door of the church, and then and leave as many car parks available for people. And keep in mind, it's also good for your own people because most people come late. First thing. Second thing is, now, there are different views on this, but I have a simple view. In all size churches, doesn't matter if it's small, medium or large, the welcome needs to be like what I call the supermarket hello. What do you think I mean? Just a smile. Just say, hey, good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. Seriously, some of the teams that are trained to welcome, and they just come on to a visitor, and they, because you got to think about this. You are very familiar with your environment. This visitor is as nervous as hell. Excuse me. This is a massive chasm that they have to cross. And we just think, oh, everyone else is doing it. Oh, the visitors will be fine. No, you've got to start now. In fact, ideally what we did at Central, this is now some years later, I got some non-Christian friends. I said, walk me through on a weekday. It was about signage, it was about children's safety, it was about a whole bunch of things surfaced. So, visitor flow is about signs, about people who are trained simply to be attentive to who the visitors are and say, can I be of help to you this morning? That's all that needs to be said. Got a few children in tow? Can I be of help to you this morning? Well, here's the deal with children. They come into the service for the first 15 minutes and then they go out. But before you go into the service, would you check them in if they would like to go to the children's program? Whatever it is, but because today there are all sorts of issues about child safety, and rightly so. So let me make this comment to you. Slightly off track, but I think makes the point. I've blogged about this and I got a bit of pushback, but not a lot. Most people deep down agree with this. Today, this modern day, 2016 in which we live, in evangelical churches, whether they are Baptist, Brethren, Pentecostal, Anglican or Presbyterian, or Independents, the children, you want to write this down, the children will decide where the family goes to church. That's a very carefully worded statement. The children will decide where the family goes to church. Arise Wellington understand that dynamic utterly. It is one of the major reasons for one of the fastest growing churches in New Zealand today. It's probably the fastest growing. They understand that. So they invest in children's ministry. You check them in, they will be guaranteed to be safe. However you do that, electronically, or if you can't afford the electronics, do it however you do that. We could do a whole day seminar on how to do some of this stuff. Seriously, I know people who do this so well they'd come in, they'd happily talk about what they do. You know, there's best practice. There is already best practice around New Zealand. And all you do, you just ask questions. The church I go to is a large church, lots of children. One of the things that why this church is so good is because of their children's ministry. No question about that. People I've talked to come because of the children's ministry. So what they're saying is, well, mum and dad are saying, this wouldn't be my church of choice, but my kids love it. And so there you've got the dynamic. The children have decided where the family goes to church. So Baptists up and down the land are lamenting the fact that they're losing their young families now. They've lamented for years that they've lost their young adults. Now they're lamenting that they're losing so many families when they are in the shadow of one of these mega churches. Now look, you may have your attitudes about Arise and Life and City Impact and Grace Vineyard and Church Unlimited and
I was going to joke and say Willow Creek and Shining Lights.
you may have your attitudes, but which are negative, but it ain't helpful if you've got negative attitudes. You better go and find out what they're doing that's making them so successful and then replicate that where you're doing it because they're doing something right. Yeah. Now you may have to sanctify some of that, because I don't think everything they're doing is that classy. It's classy, but I'm not sure that that's what the church should be doing. So you may need to sanctify it a wee bit, but they are onto something. And Arise, I've had a bit of a look into their systems. Look, honestly, in terms of visitors, the way they deal with visitors is just slick. Unbelievable. It's a little wonder to me that they're the fastest growing church in New Zealand.
Just to reinforce your point, got young kids, visited City Impact and Arise in Hamilton. The only two churches we visited on holiday where we had complete peace about leaving our kids in the kids' programs. We did enjoy the service. Everywhere else there's an element of nervousness, so just concur that fantastic. And with that much happened, we kind of catch some of things.
So it's creating it's creating a culture in the church that says we want to welcome people who are not yet part of us, and some of them are going to smell bad morally. They're going to stink to high heaven or to deep hell. You know what I'm saying? And we welcome them. And you're a child abuser? Well, let's leave that one alone. You're a wife beater? You've got an addiction problem? You're a womanizer? You're a cheat? It's the best place for you. We're so glad you're here. And talk to these dear ones. Pastor, you talk to them, not the worship leader. You talk to them. And please don't get them to stand up. Because if you ask these people to stand up, and I'm there one Sunday, I'm going to come after the service and I'm going to hit you between the eyes. That's the dumbest thing to do. Don't do that. I was in a little church in Otaronga, doing pretty well. I probably shouldn't have said the place, but oh, seriously. Look, I wanted to stand up and say, I was there to preach. I said, stop this. This is painful. You know, there was the birthday thing, going around and giving everyone chocolate. It was a birthday, and all the children were making excuses. And then they'd pray for each one. And then, it was nauseating. It was putrid. Honestly, look, I'm sorry to use such strong language, but someone has to say something about this nonsense. So, visitor.
Why do you think birthday thing?
I don't mind the birthday thing, but what they were doing was, it's the way it was done. I don't mind the birthday thing. It's a great thing. If your children are in, and there's a bit of a family thing, and you want to do, I would regularly, as a pastor, talk to the kids. I believe every pastor should talk to the kids regularly. The pastor should, not the children's work. I believe you should sit them down when the parents, on a Sunday, from time to time, not every Sunday, you sit the kids down and you sit down with them, literally. You might want to sit on a step when you get a bit older, and you talk with the children. Because you're their pastor.
Talking about in the service, yeah.
In the service.
Yeah.
And you've got a few thoughts that you want to share with them. So you say, how's it going? How's school? How's the holidays been? A few kids. Parents love it. Every adult loves it. It only takes 5 to 10 minutes once a month. Talk to the kids.
What was the nauseating dynamic?
Yeah.
What was the nauseating dynamic? And what you were saying?
With the birthdays.
Birthdays.
I don't know, still confused.
They took this little basket of chocolates around, and then they would, and so kids were, so it was a smaller church, so they would stop, and the child would take, and then they'd stop and they'd pray for the child. And there were 6 of them this morning I was there or something, 6 or 7, so every child was prayed for individually by some person. It wasn't the pastor.
Is that wrong?
Yeah, it's not conducive to this. You've only got 75 minutes with your people. That's not good use of time.
But it's a family church, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you want to do that, do it at another time when you gather the family. Do you know what I'm saying? If you really are intentional about reaching people who are far away, then you've got to actually think about it when you design the service, because that's the other thing. If you want your visitors to keep coming, you've got to think about the visitor when you design the service. And pastor, you've got to think carefully about how you're going to construct your message to talk to both the unbeliever and the Christian and try and give something to both. Andy Stanley calls that double-barrel preaching, which he's very, very good at. You want to read something about how to do that, Andy Stanley's book, Effective Preaching, is one of the best on this. Double-barrel preaching. And that's why North Point Christian Centre, by the way, the community church, has had such unbelievable growth of genuinely unchurched middle-class Americans. Because they have figured this out. In terms of welcoming visitors. I was there last year. It was just fabulous experience. The whole thing. I was a visitor. Didn't know I was a Christian or not. And the whole experience through right to the even down to reserved seats for visitors. Come down the front. Or would you like to sit down in the front? Yeah. Well, we were Christians and we were leaders and we wanted to learn how as much as we could. So yeah, we'd like to sit down the front. Most visitors don't really want to do that.
What would your response be to someone who says that, well, actually on Sunday, that is our time as Christians together, and the service is not primarily for outsiders, it's for us, and so we should be doing the things that we enjoy, a la the music, a particular style.
Yeah, so I would just respond by saying that you won't get visitors then. So if you, on the one hand, want visitors, and on the other hand, you want that, you won't get visitors. That'll dry up.
You won't get non-Christian visitors.
You may not even get many Christians because here's the thing. When there is churches create a culture of, smaller churches in particular, small to mid-sized, which is, keep in mind, 80% of our churches in New Zealand, if not more. They create a family dynamic, and you as a Christian can't even get in there, let alone a non-Christian, because that dynamic is so strong. We've been around forever, you know, and I can sniff that out in 10 minutes when I come onto a church. The degree to which they are open to visitors, all the way down to absolutely closed, and everything in between. You know, so you get open, and you may not want to, and it's a fair point, you may not want to be as open as I may be suggesting here today, but you don't want to be this either, I wouldn't have thought. Because I have some non-Christian family that are out of town, so they're not, I have some non-Christian friends now. I want them to get saved. And to come anonymously to a service and just to hear, to be given some simple instructions from the front. Look, we sing here. We stand for about 20 minutes. But look, if that's not your thing, feel free to sit. And that's a good little phrase to say. You don't have to sing. Who said you have to sing?
I think with the small church, I hear what this lady's saying. We come together as the Christian family, the church family. But I do say to those, because we have a lot of people in the church who take part in the service, and I do say to them, be mindful of the visitors. You know, we have some regular visitors who come down on holiday once a year, so we know they're Christians, that's fine. But if you're doing something and you notice that there's some people that you don't recognise, be aware of that when you're giving a testimony or when you're doing whatever, that there may be some non-Christians there. So tailor what you do.
So very quickly as I wrap up, look, the thing is that, you know, you can, I've been asked to run this workshop because I'm so passionate about this issue. So I may be just pushing this a little bit far for a local church, and I understand that. But you just find your place in this. Do you know what I'm saying? But sometimes I feel like you've got to be a little bit, but you've got to be a little bit bullshit to make your point. You know what I'm saying? Because truly, we're not cutting it. You know, Dave's the eternal optimist, but local churches truly, he may be seeing something I'm not, but I do have a bit of a point of difference with Dave. It's not as great as he might have suggested in the first session, with respect.
It's all about thinking through the mind of the person.
It is. It's about thinking through the mind. It's about trying to really get yourself. So I read a lot of stuff that is secular. That's about postmodernism and about how people coming at life. I read on social trends and sociology type stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? That tends to be a lot of my reading. The newspaper. John Stott once walked into a classroom teaching a bunch of Anglican vicars, recruit Anglican vicars. John Stott's a hero of mine, and as a theologian. And he had his big Bible in one hand. Some of you have heard this illustration. This comes from John Stott. Some people have said it comes from someone else. It's actually Stott's. He says he walks with his Bible in one hand, and then with the morning's paper and the daily paper in the other hand. And he says, and it was all men in the room in those days. He says, gentlemen, this is your task. To really understand, talking about the Bible, to really understand this text. This is holy text. Holy script. You've got to really understand this. And then he opens up the paper. He says, you need to really understand this. And the paper is the image of the times in which we live, the issues of the day. And he says, gentlemen, your task. And in a very dramatic way, he takes this paper and he puts his Bible smack in the middle of the paper. It says, you are to bring these two together to make sense of this from a biblical perspective.
That's great.
So very quickly, a couple of other things if you want to take some notes in terms of visitor flow. talk to the unchurched people every service. It only takes 2 or 3 minutes. Talk to them in a general sense, not to individuals. Do you have materials always available, readily available, a cross-section of materials that you can give to a seeker, an inquirer? Do you have materials that you can give to someone who wants to give their life to Christ that morning? Do you have a New Testament that you can give away? Do you have a system of follow-up? To follow up visitors who, done in a way that is supermarket style. Hi, how you doing? Text, phone call. Arise has built, it seems to me, as I look at Arise, they've built their young adult ministry on follow-up texts. Texting. Have you got a discipleship system, a process? An unchurched person starts here, they're on this side of the line is here, they come to faith at the Ingle scale, and then they come to faith, and then do you have a system that takes them from here to become what you ultimately want to produce if you have the privilege of keeping them that long, fully devoted followers of Christ? Do you have a system for that? I talked earlier about baptismal services being real, well-considered celebration services with even invitation cards. People can invite their friends. Talk about double-barrel preaching, special sermon series, a guest service with a very high-profile speaker, and again invitation cards, Easter and Christmas more than Easter in New Zealand, a concert, children's special, Brian, you were saying that, youth specials, church family fun nights, where you just have a hoot of a time and you have some entertainment, and those who are sort of involved in all of that will bring their friends along, and then you have a kind of, and it's just simply getting Christians to rub shoulders with non-Christians that might be there. So, for what it's worth, sorry if I've rattled a few cages, I meant to.
An evangelism conference for New Zealand. Get inspired, be equipped, engage conference, reaching your world one conversation at a time.